All right, guys, we are back. Hopefully, everyone's had a great summer vacation, and August is almost over. We had a great 5-year.
Yes, we
Thank
did.
you for helping put that together,
and thank you all for coming.
Yeah, we had a great turnout, so it worked out fantastic, and we had a lot of prize giveaways. So it was just a great time, fun, and at the park, and for those bocce ball fans. You guys actually had a good time playing bocce ball.
It was a lot of fun.
I was watching. I didn't actually play bocce ball, but I was like, okay, I think I get it. You got to throw the ball as far as you can. No, I'm just joking. But anyway, okay, so back to August, back to getting this last. We're almost done with Q3, going into Q4. A couple big things that have come up. One thing in particular is about credit reports. Typically, when you're doing a lease, and lease, people don't get excited about lease, and I can get that, but sometimes you have to do a lease, for a client, right? And that client, you may have sold their property or helped them buy a property, and now they want to lease it. Okay, so what do you go through it? You're not maybe as excited to do it, but you do it for them, and now someone wants to lease it. You put it on MLS, and you get maybe someone who's contacted you as an agent and say, hey, I want to lease a property. And you're like, all right, cool, let's just get this done. You get the lease paperwork going, and then you remember that you want to get a credit report. And a lot of times realtors make the mistake of accepting a credit report from the actual prospective tenant, and that's a big, huge flag. And one of the big reasons is that credit report, there's a high probability that could be a fake credit report. And it's forged and documented or doctored up, and you're not seeing those hassles. You end up leasing it to that person. They move in, they stop paying rent after like maybe the second month, third month, and then it's an eviction process and things like that. So we want to just, a friendly reminder on that front. Amanda's got some thoughts to share with you guys too on that side, is because there's some other aspects of the lease that you want to also be cognizant of, especially if you're not doing it all the time. And sometimes some of these things are overlooked by an agent, and then you can get yourself in trouble. So share if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. So of course, Nita and I like attention to details. So there's a lot of different details that you want to make note on when you're filling out the lease agreement, such as who pays for the HOA, if the future tenant's going to have a pet, what's the pet policy, deposit for the pet. You're seeing a lot of properties that are doing pet deposit and a pet rent. So keep your eye out for that too.
I hadn't heard about the pet rent too often until you mentioned it to me. Yeah. So that's pretty that's funny about that. So now have Fido or Rover or Sophie or whoever your dog's name is or cat pay up, right?
But an interesting thing about pets, and a lot of people may not know this, is that if your pet is certified,
a service dog
or a service animal, they actually don't have to pay a pet deposit or a pet rent. So maybe I can look into that too. But
I mean, you can talk to your veterinarian and get a note. But
that was interesting. Lauren has two dogs, and she's currently renting right now, but they're service animals. And they aren't required to pay additional pet deposit or rent for them.
Interesting. So I wonder if there's some exceptions to it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things I wanted to remind you too is on the landscape part, because that sometimes can be problematic. You want to make sure that who's taking care of the landscape, all those things, those little maintenance issues. And one other good thing to remind yourselves is that, let's say you're representing a landlord. Get a home warranty that the tenant can actually call the home warranty company, and you have it in their lease that, hey, tenant is responsible for the service fee, and get that, because especially with the landlords that are away or maybe out of state, out of the country, it's a good way to get that done. But I'm sorry, anything else?
I have one more. Let's say that your clients come to you and say, hey, David, I want to actually sell my property, but we have some tenants in there, and their agreement's not up for another couple months. So you want to make sure that you include some verbiage in the lease agreement, up front, stating that, if the seller decides to sell the property, then they'll provide the tenants, 60-day notice. But then you also have to be in the know for some of the local ordinances on tenants' rights, especially in Oakland and San Francisco, because they're a bit more stricter.
Yeah, very leaning towards the tenant, right? They're pro tenants in those areas, and some, and I get it. There's some areas that you're going to have a high tenant population, so they're going to be a little bit more restrictive in that sense. So just be aware, right? You don't want to, and sometimes you can get a lot more done with honey versus vinegar. So you can get people to understand there might be a payout. The main thing that Amanda is pointing out to is to make sure that your client has some verbiage in place. So should in a situation arise where they lease it out, but then they decide, hey, I may want to sell it, that there's some verbiage in place that they can exercise just in case. So the other thing too is maybe the new buyer of that property.
Yes.
And the other thing too, one more point is that maybe the tenant will buy it. Right. So you can, work out some option from that perspective. But let's say they're not interested or they're not buying and there's another buyer in place. They might want to keep that tenant, but you want to always have your plate, and you want to have options on your plate on that. Hey, either you're going to get the tenant to vacate and the tenant can buy possibly, or you're going to, maybe have that same tenant in there. But you want to have a good relationship. But back to the credit report thing, that also applies to where you might see it as the market seems to be softening. You might start seeing seller financing again. You want to make sure that, hey, that prospective tenant or lease option or the buyer that has seller financing or a portion of seller financing, that they're actually vetted and they're not giving you, the credit report. You are actually using a tenant screening program. There's Experian, TransUnion. Those are all links online. The tenant can select it. They can run their credit and then give you the option to do it and be able to view it. Let's put it that way. So you don't want to take anything in hand. You want to have that screening, and you don't want to make that error, because that can really cause you and your clients a huge issue later.
So I think the main thing is just to communicate with your clients prior to doing the lease. Talk to them about the different options. Allow them to be aware of what, the circumstances can change within a day, a week, or whatnot, and they might have to sell a property. So you always want to make sure that you have something in there, some type of verbiage to protect your client and whatnot. But I think it's attention to details, like we go back to all the time. But yeah.
That's it. That's your dose for this week. We're in San Ramon. For those that don't know, Realty One Group. So the unbrokerage. Find out what that means. Keep watching our videos and give us comments and feedback. We look forward to doing some more videos for you guys shortly here. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.